Welcome, friends, to Popcorn Therapy, where the stories we love tell us something about who we are. And the story that we're going to be working with today is Love is Blind, the reality phenomenon. I got Marcelle Kosman, a good friend of mine, a co-host of the podcast Material Girls, and a part of the feminist media empire that she and some others are creating under Oh Witch Please. So I got Marcelle to watch season 10 of Love is Blind. I have seen all the seasons. This is the very first season she had seen, and we had a lot of fun pulling apart our thoughts and feelings about it and looking at the big family system of Love is Blind and its cult culture. So this episode it's a hefty one. It's a bit of a whopper because we were talking about the whole season in one episode. So settle in, grab your gold goblet, and enjoy. And please be aware that we are talking about the entire season, including the reunion. So spoilers ahead. If you haven't seen, the wedding episodes yet or whatever it is, please watch the whole thing before you listen in. I would love to know your thoughts about this. You can comment on YouTube. You can comment on Spotify. I also love the comments on social media. I'll be posting clips on at Julie Peters Wellness on TikTok and Instagram and Facebook and all that stuff. So before we jump in, I do also just want to let you know a little note about Popcorn Therapy and what's going on with it right now. Don't expect too much of a schedule from me. I'm doing my best, but I do have a lot going on, including with 2 small children. So I had wanted this episode up last week, but life happens and it didn't work out that way. And I have lots of plans coming ahead, but when the episode actually gets out into the world, not all of that is within my control. So I would love for you to just sort of stay in touch. I'm going to be doing it as regularly as I can. And you can follow along on, if you follow me on Instagram, you can also subscribe to my newsletter. If you go to juliepeters.ca/subscribe or like the bottom of any of the pages on my website, you can subscribe and stay in touch. I am on Substack now, and I'm going to be posting this podcast on Substack as well as everywhere else. So if you're a Substacker and you like that, follow me there. It's also Julie Peters Wellness, just to keep it super simple and clear. There is also a really exciting update about Popcorn Therapy, which is that I'm going to be doing a little series with Amanda Edmiston. She is a fellow author at Verbena. She's a herbalist and a storyteller, and we're going to be getting into some folklore and some mythology with each other. So that's going to be a little branch of Popcorn Therapy that's going to be coming, I'm hoping once a month or so, but don't hold me to any of that. I'm just going to be doing my best. So stay tuned for that. Please also feel free to be in touch with things that you want to hear about here, comments that you have, things that you liked. Don't tell me things you hated. I just don't want to hear it. So that's all I wanted to say. Okay. So that's it. Please enjoy this episode with me and Marcelle Kosman. I can't wait to hear what you think about Love is Blind season 10. Okay, welcome everybody back to Popcorn Therapy, where the stories we love tell us something about who we are. And I am very excited to be doing Love is Blind season 10 with Marcelle Kosman, who has never seen this show before this season. And I have seen every single season, and we've done several, I don't even know how many, but we've done Love is Blind on Popcorn Therapy before, usually with Emily Nimitz. And so, Marcelle, welcome back.
Thank you.
Please tell us a little something about who you are, whatever you want to share with listeners.
I am, wow, who am I? What am I? What do I do? So in my civilian life, I am an instructor at the University of Alberta, where I teach English. And then in my superhero after work life, I am also a podcaster, and I am the co-host of the podcast Material Girls, which you can find on any platform where you find podcasts.
Genuinely, as I said last time you were here, one of my favorite podcasts. It's just really interesting, like, for listeners who love the deep dive and want to kind of get a sense of how to frame what's interesting about these pieces of culture. I highly recommend that podcast. So one of the reasons I can't stop watching Love is Blind, even when it hurts my feelings, is that it's about love, right? It's about the desire for partnership. And I think that's something that's just really real about many human beings that, are in my practice or are my friends or are me. And I find so many of these moments are moments I've experienced before, even in that sort of extreme reality way. And I also find the whole big thing of Love is Blind, like it's not just one season, right? It's 10 seasons.
Yeah.
And it's incredibly popular. I think it's one of those Netflix pillars that probably makes them a lot of money. And it keeps going and going and going. And the last few seasons, I've started to really feel like this is a cult also. So maybe we can get back to that. But I would love to know, Marcelle, this was your first time watching the show. Tell me about your relationship with it, your experience with it. What was it like? I'm not sure if we've even talked. We've texted a little bit. I'm not sure if I even know if you liked it. Like, what did you think?
I'll start by saying that I don't watch a lot of reality TV. And so I think that that's really helpful context, because a lot of the things that I didn't like about it, I think were just conventions of reality TV where they like draw something out super long, and then there's like, cliffhangers that don't necessarily need to be cliffhangers, and the way that the way that production kind of teases something that ends up not even being close to the case. Like there were some teased moments that implied that Vic and Christine, the couple who like truly held up the whole purpose of the show, there were some early moments in the season that teased a potential conflict related to his family not liking her because of race. And I don't even remember how those were framed, but like that was never an actual thing. So
non-issue.
A lot of the kind of conventions of reality TV I found unsurprisingly frustrating to watch, going through Love is Blind for the first time. That said, I didn't like it. I didn't like it because I found I've known lots of people who've been watching from the beginning, and who are like really into the drama of it all. But I think there's something about the very premise of treating marriage as a value in and of itself, rather than like a legal change in the status of a relationship, that really, really troubles me. And so watching a show that had the premise of finding the person to be married to, like finding your marriage, was hard. That was a hard one for me. And I didn't like most of the people.
Yeah, fair.
And I found a lot of their relationship dynamics really worrisome. And so I was I the whole time I kept thinking, I really look forward to hearing what Julie has to say about this, because as a therapist, like, this has got to be such a rich text to unpack, right?
Oh yeah. Yeah, I think because not only because of those relationship dynamics, but also because of the social political layers that get folded into it, right? And one thing I'm genuinely curious about, there are a lot of Christians that end up on this show. There are a lot of people who do have that, marriage as a value, marriage is like the thing, the goal. There is, in this season, there was definitely a lot of conversation about kids and having kids and how important that was for certain people. I don't know if that's like representative of, for example, American culture. at large, you know, or reality TV culture, or if this is sort of a special case, right? Like if they're selecting for people who have this as a value. I think it is interesting to, you know, having watched this one, knowing you were watching it for the first time and kind of having that perspective of like, what would this feel like if this was the first season that you started with? I think a lot of people loved the first season of Love is Blind because it didn't feel like reality TV. I don't watch a lot of reality TV either. I guess there's a brand of it I've come to enjoy, which is this Netflix universe I seem to be unable to resist. But, you know, I'd never watched The Bachelor or like the Kardashians. Like that stuff has just never really appealed to me that much. Temptation Island, maybe back in the day, that was kind of a fun one.
I watched seasons 1 and 2.
Yeah, that was compelling at the time. But you know, it felt to me like that first season, there were these quite real people. And what I thought was so interesting about that first season is it was, you know, people kind of drowning in choice in the era of, you know, dating apps where you just flip, and you're, you know, looking basically only on image. And there's this sort of new way that people are dating in this generation that, you know, for me, when I was coming up and dating, that was like an option, but it wasn't the main way people met each other. And now it is like, that's really how people date. Totally. And so I thought it was fascinating that people wanted to come onto a show where the premise was you would meet someone, get engaged to them without ever having met them, and then get married, right? With the idea of getting married. And it happens much more often now that people will split up before they make it to the altar. But in the first season, everybody met at the altar and like you were supposed to decide then. And not everybody said yes, of course. But I think two couples the two couples that said yes in that season are still married after all this time. And so I thought, it was almost like a fantasy of an arranged marriage, like an American fantasy of an arranged marriage. And of course, since then, because the show got so popular, there's so many more influencers that are on there, reality TV people who want the fame. And so the genuineness has really taken a hit, I think, some seasons more than others. And Vic and Christine were the sort of refreshing kind of like, they felt like real people in a way that a lot of the others didn't. Totally. And I do find that people coming in with these Christian values, marriage values, family values, kind of craving this arranged marriage, like craving someone to make the decision for them almost, right? And maybe that feeling has changed, but I think certainly at the time it was speaking to people feeling kind of lost in the sauce of all of the choice out there and just wanting to be able to commit to something, right?
Yeah. You know, I really hadn't thought about it in the context of dating apps, but that makes so much sense to me that like it really is the kind of inverse, right? Where a dating app, it's all surface. And then Love is Blind, in theory, is all depth, but no surface. I think that's really interesting. So this is where I'm so curious about your perspective as a therapist, because when I was watching these people talking to each other through this wall, like bearing their souls to one another, it felt so much like you guys, like, this is therapy to you. The reason that you are making these connections and like building this trust is because you are experiencing therapy. You are able to speak to somebody non-judgmentally. They'll never recognize you when you leave this room. Like, you have that safety. And so when it was just talking, when it was just like, tell me about yourself, tell me about like your family history, like where did you, like, tell me your traumas, all of that stuff. That for me was like, I see what's happening here. These people desperately need somebody to listen to them and someone to tell them that they're not bad, that they, like, it wasn't their fault, that they couldn't have made any other choice, etc. Like, that's what a therapist does. And so so I really want to know, like, how does that read to you as a therapist?
Wow, I love that perspective. I had never thought of it that way. Like, I've seen these perspectives of like Love is Blind, but it's a therapist on the other side of the wall. Like, it's so obvious that so many of these people do need therapy, right? Or could use therapy, or, you know, whatever it is. Yeah.
I mean, in this economy, who doesn't, right?
Right.
No judgment on them.
Yeah, of course. But yeah, the safe space, that's so true that there are a lot of moments of people processing traumas or telling people something that they had never shared before, and then having this feedback, this really specific feedback, I think, which is, you're still lovable, right? Like, I still want you. You know, because that's so often the fear that many of us have, is if someone were to truly know us, they would learn that we're not lovable. And so to be told that we are, and then of course that goes sideways, because then, you know, they meet on the other side of the wall and they're like, ooh, you're not my type, or like, I don't like how you look, you know, and then it doesn't work out. And then they'll get proven right, that they're actually not lovable, right?
Right. Yeah.
I have thought about the pods in some other ways, like, one of them actually is that I think that this Love is Blind situation is kind of an avoidance dream, dating. Because if you have avoidant attachment, basically what that means is you feel more comfortable with a distance, right? And often what's happening with avoidant attachment is it's this mode under stress of, I can do it myself. I don't need anyone. I'm safer by myself. I'm more capable by myself. Like, intimacy is threatening to me because my needs haven't been met, usually, like in the family structure or whatever it is. So people who have avoidant attachment, there's often a really deep desire and need for that intimacy and closeness, but there's such a discomfort with it that there's a real difficulty in how to manage that. So when someone with avoidant attachment has a mitigation tool, like a wall, a literal wall, that can allow them to take those guards, those walls down for themselves and feel that intimacy. But then for many of those people, like I think Devante would probably be a great example of this. It's like moment that you cross over to that place where there is the potential for real intimacy, including sexual intimacy, is one of the things that came up between them, right? It's like, ooh, I need the wall in place. Now it's going to have to be an emotional wall. Now I'm going to have to push you away, right? I think we've seen that many, many times in many seasons. I think the other thing that's interesting about the pods is the idea of narrative, right? Like, you're telling your story, right? You're telling about yourself from your perspective, the way you want to tell it. Like, there's no context, right? You don't see if this person is nice to waiters. You don't see how this person is with pets. You don't see their friends. You don't see their family until after. And so all you have is this narrative of, this is who I am. These are my values. This is what I want. I think we saw that with Chris, right? In this season. He presented a very compelling, believable narrative in the pods, and then that changed really drastically on the other side. And so, you know, when I was in school, we learned a little bit about how some of the marriages that do tend to last are often religiously based. Like, arranged marriages have a higher success rate if you're naming success as staying together. And obviously there are other factors involved here. But the idea is, like, it's not just the person you're married to, it's the narrative, it's the story of the marriage itself, right? It's like, especially if you're religious and you're saying, you know, this is what God wants for me, you're more likely to stay in something that's unhappy or get through difficult times or whatever it is, because there's this narrative that you're more committed to than the person, right? And so I think from the pod perspective, and, you know, many seasons, I remember there was this one season where it just felt like we were just in the pods forever. Like, it feels also to me like this weird purgatory, like this weird kind of chamber. And in the first season especially, there was this sense of like, okay, you're locked in the pods and you can't leave until you propose to someone. Like, it was the only way out of this like trap is to get engaged to somebody. And then, you know, you can be free on the other side. So yeah, there was one season where it was just so much word salad, you know, so much of like, wow, you mean so much to me. You're such a wonderful person. Like, all of this kind of blah, blah, but none of it actually speaking to, you know, who I think you are, or why I think that's important, or who I think I am. Like, I think so often these people are influencers and fitness influencers or whatever. And so their values are cold plunges and like getting up at 5 in the morning to do a cold plunge and go for a run and then eat chicken breast in a smoothie for breakfast or something like that.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is not values. It's like something else. But yeah, so I think that's kind of more how I've thought of it, is like people being able to tell a certain story and commit to that. And that's, I think, often why it crumbles so quickly once it's out in the world, right?
Yeah,
in
totally.
a context that you can't. I think Alex was someone who tried to talk over his context with kind of a nonsense story, but yeah.
Yeah, definitely. He was wild.
Yeah, he was fun. I had to like write down a few of his like best moments.
Yeah. Tell me. Say more.
I loved the moments when Alex, he said he would never admit to being nervous or scared. And he
Yeah.
would say things like, okay, he's about to get married
Yeah.
or he's about to go to the altar. And he says, I'm not nervous. This is normal for me.
Yeah.
Like, what do
Yeah.
you mean this is normal for you? Like, this scenario is normal for you? And the way that he was kind of trying to describe getting to the altar and all this stuff as sort of a soccer play that, like, made no sense.
Yeah.
I think it might have been in that same context. He said, I don't think I have any fears right now, except maybe sharks in the water, but I think that's normal. It's just like, what is this guy talking about? Of course, if we move to Florida, that's great for the education. That was an interesting moment. Like, I don't know where he got that information exactly. I didn't vote, but I would have voted for Trump was a good one. That was sort of pasted over. We can come back to that because I feel like there is this thing about there's suspicion or maybe confirmation out there that Love is Blind is MAGA, right?
Yeah,
like obviously
I've heard
conservative and seems to be kind of going in a certain direction in that way. And and then of course the I can't remember the exact quote, but it was like, I want to have a house in Florida, something in Dubai, and like a safe house in New Zealand. It's like, who are you that is your goals?
So wild.
That was wild. And then the long conversation about her period. I need to know when your period is, like, in order to feel safe having sex with you. That was such a strange conversation that Ashley was just like, the cameras are on. Like, it's none of your business. I don't have to tell you when my period is. It was just, he had some great, very odd, strange moments. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. The producers did not do him any favors. Like they really made sure that he came across as unreliable, untrustworthy, a little bit like pretty sus.
Yeah, definitely.
And I'm not, and by that I don't mean to suggest that he isn't those things, but I think because of how much power they have over what they include and what they don't. Like, I think that if they had wanted to, they could have painted a very different picture of him and made Ashley out to be like this, like, untrustworthy, shrill, like shrill girlfriend. So that was really interesting. I guess one of the questions I have for you about the other seasons is, so two couples got married at the altar, but then one of them got divorced. So we're 1 for 2 out of however many. And I know that they followed 7 couples, they said, and normally they don't follow that many. So I guess I'm curious, like, how does this season stack up in terms of success if we measure success as in marriages that happen and stay, or happen and stick?
There's a great infographic that I saw somewhere. It was, I think, a statistician that was putting together, like, okay, the experiment is love blind. If the meaning of success is people get married and stay married, what is our success rate? I can't remember exactly what it is, but it's clearly a failure, like a very, very clear fail.
Love is not blind.
Love is not blind. Yeah.
Okay.
There have been several successful marriages, but if you put that against how many people either didn't make it to the altar or said no or got divorced later, it's not statistically significant.
Okay.
There are a few, and they are exalted in the cult of Love is Blind, but but yeah, there was one season where I feel like 3 or so people got married, and every single person on that season got divorced within a year or two. So it's a pretty high divorce rate as well. And I think part of what's going on with the cult perspective is it's like a cult oriented around the concept that love is blind. That's the value that is being expressed. And like the people that prove that true are the ones in the hierarchy that are very high. They're treated really well. They don't have any consequences for bad behavior. Whereas, then there are the middle people who, like, it didn't work out, but they're still trying to get married, or they're still trying, So Jess and Haramal, we saw in the reunion, So Jess, we know what happened to her. She was rejected by Chris for her looks. Okay, this is significant from a Love is Blind cult perspective. He broke the rules so egregiously that he had to be publicly humiliated.
Yes.
Okay. But Haramal was in this season. He was also in the pods.
Okay.
So Jess and Haramal had a connection in the pods, but I think they agreed to just be friends or something. Like it didn't go to the altar. So first of all, Jess is a bit of a golden child from the cult perspective because she was rejected in this way that was absolutely breaking the rules of the cult. So it's sort of like it benefits that cult to rehabilitate Jess. Okay. She is not only dating someone, which is a good thing, but she's dating Haramal, who is within the Love is Blind universe. He was there with the intention of getting married, and he, during the reunion, apologized for his error, which was not proposing to Jess. Okay? So the two of them could be beloved from the Love is Blind perspective and not criticized at all. Okay? Okay. Some things I found kind of interesting about Haramal, and I saw a little bit on social media afterwards. A little sidebar, but another thing I find so fascinating about this show is that people love to talk about it. Like there's so much on social media that people want to add. There's podcasts, there's extra tea, there's edits. Like there's so much more that comes with it than just the show itself. Okay, so Haramal did not propose to Jess in the pods, and then he was giving this speech at the reunion saying, you know, I got this second chance and you're the most amazing person, so I should be using it. And I was waiting for him to say, and will you marry me? Right? Like I was waiting for him to pull a ring out because that would have been the absolute best thing to do from a Love is Blind perspective, right? Like they would have been able to go and sit with the marrieds, capital T, capital M, you know, over in their section. And, you know, they would have proven the experiment right. So, you know, that would have been best from their perspective. He didn't. Yeah. And then they had a little interview later, and they were kind of talking about like, oh, what's the plan for you guys or whatever. And he was being a little cagey about it. And I feel like this is the sort of behavior that if they were during the season, if this was happening, they would have been criticized. But because of the way things unfolded from the cult perspective, Haramal can do no wrong. You know, unless he rejects Jess, in which case he'll be rejected and exiled from the cult, but he must stay within it at the same time, which is that culty behavior.
Okay, interesting. So one of the reasons why I didn't recognize him is, I think because at the beginning of the season, there were so many people, right? And I have this note where I write that I have no clear sense of the timing because I think we see Vic and Christine get engaged either at the end of the first episode or in the second episode. Like it's very quick.
Right.
And I was really sort of trying to figure out, did they just get engaged like after like one day or is this how it's been edited just for us in the background?
So, I believe they're in the pods for like a month or something. They have sort of a set period of time that they're in there, and they're dating 12 hours a day. Like they're spending time with each other in this very, very intensive way. They're given unlimited alcohol.
Yes, I did notice that.
They're given food as well, but like I think it's a little bit encouraged, like, you know, get a little loose-lipped here.
Yeah, for sure.
And they all get engaged on the same day at the end.
Okay.
So everyone has been dating for the same amount of time when they get engaged.
Okay.
I think there must be some people who drop off when I think you can decide to leave. Like you can decide to go home if it's not working for you. But I think in many seasons, lots of people get engaged. Like the experiment works incredibly well in the sense that people feel that deep connection and attraction through the wall. What happens after is another story, but from that perspective, it absolutely works. So there are often way more couples than they can't have the budget or the audience attention span to follow. But my theory about Vic and Christine, couple theories. So I don't know if you noticed, I didn't notice this at first, but they weren't in Cabo with the other couples.
I did notice, yeah.
They had been sent to Malibu instead. And apparently, my sense is that what happened was they initially weren't going to follow Vic and Christine because they were just kind of boring, right? They were just kind of like, oh, they...
Too easy.
Yeah, too easy. Like, they really like each other. They have a lot in common. They're having good communication. Like, it's not great TV, right? But all of the other couples were such a dumpster fire that they needed to bring back in this couple in order to prove the cult value, which is love is blind and leads to marriage.
So interesting. Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So I don't actually think this is true, but during the reunion, I did have a moment of wondering, like, are these plants? Like, are these actors? because because they're so perfect for this cult, for this experiment, right? Like, not only are they well-spoken and kind and all those other things, they're also interracial, which I feel like is beneficial because it allows the Love is Blind cult to say, like, we're diverse, like, we, we believe in all, this, but they were Christians, so that allowed them to be still on the conservative side of things. That's which right. It's a MAGA cult, I guess. So I don't actually think that's true. I think they're real people, but they felt that they were needed for this season because without them, the experiment would have been too much of a failure. Right?
Totally. Oh yeah, absolutely. Oh my gosh. Can we talk a little bit about Tyler and Kia and what was his name? Kevin.
Yeah.
Because the way that this love triangle was being constructed by the show, I found really deeply concerning. Like, Kevin very clearly has never made a decision in his life. He doesn't seem like a bad person at all, but he definitely seems like he's always had a woman telling him what to do. So he loves women and he respects women, but he can't make decisions about women. And so he was in this situation where he had Tyler, who I honestly believe would commit murder. Like, I honestly, like, she scares me so much. Like, the way that she was, like, the intensity with which she was going after Kevin, I found really concerning and alarming. And I really, like, I have a note at one point where I was like, Tyler is ready to move into his house. It's like, Kevin, run. And then there was Kia, who she also really, she surprised me the most because I initially really got the impression that Kia was not trying to cause trouble, but that she was in that ongoing relationship with Kevin in this way that was, like, obviously a problem in the women's quarters. Like, there was obviously some kind of situation there that we didn't get full information about, as you're saying, because that would look poorly on the experiment, right? So we only get sort of little hints about it. But her role in the pods with Kevin seemed to constantly, like, she was constantly there to remind him, like, you get to decide. Right. Like, you get to decide for you. So like, Tyler on the one hand is like, you need to choose me. Right. And Kia's like, you get to decide for you. And so then Kevin is just like, I have two strong women telling me what to do, and I don't know how to cope. And so when Kia eventually chose herself, when she was like, I'm actually good, no thank you, I'm out of here, this was fun, I was genuinely surprised. I was like, I didn't see that coming. I really read her as, like, trying to get an engagement. And so then when that was not her goal, or when it was revealed that was not her goal, I kind of, like, recast all of her behavior in the pause as, like, oh, that's so much more. That's you're just telling this man that he's allowed to make decisions. Like, he is, like, Tyler seemed to be very frustrated with him that he was dating more than one person when that's literally the objective of the show.
Comes up
Do you know
a lot.
What I mean?
That comes up a lot. Yeah. There's an interesting thing about, like, being in this by the function of what it is, a polyamorous like experience, where there is such an extreme value on monogamy. I think that's something that really does come up. One thing that you're speaking to, and I have lots of thoughts about this triangle, is this concept of girl code, which has come up in social media afterwards too, like a lot of people coming down on Brie specifically for not being a girl's girl, right?
Right.
So I found this interesting. Like, obviously, I like the idea of, you know, listen to women, you know, stand up for women, things like that. But I feel like this type of girl code also folds in this extreme sort of monogamy, right?
Yeah.
Like, for me, I feel like a girl code in that situation might have been less so get away from my man and more so like, oh, go ahead and explore your connection with the man that I'm also seeing, because that's what we're doing here. Right. Or like my girl code would be like, oh, if you want to be friends with this man that I dislike, you have the right to be friends with people that you want to be friends with. And I don't like him, but like I am on your side and that's great. And I trust you. Right. Like that would be my version of girl code. But I feel like their version of girl code is like, you can't talk to him ever again. Like, what do you mean? Like, you can't see him as a person. He made a mistake and you can only ever see him from my perspective, right? Totally. And also in this case where it's like, this is a problem that you're continuing to date someone that Tyler wants. Like, for me, that doesn't, I don't feel like that's, I mean, maybe girl code is just a problematic concept, right? But I feel like girl code / guy code, it often means monogamy, like this heteronormative sort of monogamous perspective too, where it's like, if you've ever dated anyone ever, you know, no friend of yours can ever be close to that person in any way, like in a very possessive, objectifying kind of way, right?
Yeah.
So that's one piece that I feel like did come up here, and in other relationships as well. Curious if you have any thoughts about that.
Well, I mean, with Kia and Tyler, they're also in competition in a sense, right? Because it's like they don't vote people off, but like the winners are clearly the ones who get engaged. And so in this sense, Kia is a problem for Tyler because Kia is preventing Kevin. If Kia, the way that the show frames it for us very much looks like if Kia wasn't there, Tyler would have gotten an engagement.
Right.
And so in that sense, like girl code is also like, you can't be competition. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah. And the thing with Brie, I think is so interesting. And it's so interesting that people came down so hard on her about being in that conversation with Chris at the bar. Like, I'm sorry, ladies, have you never been trapped by a man in a conversation at a bar? Like, wow. From the outside, it's easy to see ways to like make your exit out of there, but that's not that. The majority of women have been trapped in conversations because men are scary. And Chris was not. He was drunk. He was not being respectful of anybody's boundaries or space that night. He was certainly not being respectful towards Brie in that exchange either. And so like why it is that when we're watching, we expect her to be able to like, I don't know. I feel this is so embarrassing. I believe the expression is clap back. Like people really praised,
as the youths
say, like people really praised Amber for that, but Amber was also really drunk and like that was not a good night for her. You know what I mean? Yeah. And so she was in the situation where she was able to say something like quippy and sharp to Chris while turning around and walking away. And that's a very different situation than being like cornered at a bar.
Yes.
So yeah, anyway, so all of which is to say, yeah, I think you're totally right. I think girl code as a concept is definitely being weaponized, not in terms of like being in solidarity with one another and like supporting one another in what they need, but rather it's being weaponized as this tool to like critique behavior that you find like threatening or undermining or something.
Yeah.
Does that kind of make sense?
Totally makes sense. Yeah. And weaponizing it against, quote unquote girls, right? Like it's the women who are always in the wrong in this case.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And I think something like, being cornered by Chris at the bar. I mean, to me, it looked to me like Bree's body language was incredibly uncomfortable. Like I didn't get the sense that she was interested in more from him. You could see her kind of physically recoiling from him, right?
Yeah.
I think she was cornered, and then that's her fault for not following girl codes.
Absolutely.
So I think there's another piece about that, Bree's response versus Amber's response, and then to bring it back to Tyler's sort of explosivity with Kevin and his passivity, I guess. Like these are the kinds of communication patterns that come up a lot in a show like this and are the sort of thing that we might work on in therapy, right? So my thing about anger is always like anger needs to be rehabilitated. Like I think anger is really important, but also you want to think about letting your anger tell you what your needs and boundaries are, and then finding effective ways to communicate that so that people actually know what your needs and boundaries are, as opposed to, like you said with Amber, I mean, in that moment, which was great TV, and it was great also in a moment, like to be fair, her saying, you think you're going to get another hot doctor? Like I think everybody loved that moment.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
From a communication perspective, she did whirl around and walk away. Like there was no chance. That wasn't a conversation, right? Like it was a reproach. It was a criticism, which is fair in that context. And I think, it was kind of, there's so many moments in this season and many others where you can see someone trying to communicate what they want to say, but it's not coming across. Like Tyler did try really hard to say to Kevin, if you don't, like, I think what she was trying to say is, if you don't get engaged to me right now, I will be leaving. Like, I think that was really what she was trying to communicate, is like, I need an engagement now or I won't be returning in the morning. And then she didn't return in the morning, and he was like so lost. He was so confused. And I think that A, he should have picked up on that, but B, she could have expressed it a little bit more clearly and a little bit more like, so here's the need, and here's my boundary with that need, and like if that need isn't met in this certain way, then that's not going to work for me, and so on. And then Kevin, I think, really fits into this people-pleasing kind of, I think you articulated it well. It's sort of like, I'm used to people telling me what to do. And if I go along with what people want of me, I tend to do okay. And then if I have to hurt someone's feelings, like I can't hurt someone's feelings. So I'm paralyzed. Right.
Yeah, absolutely.
And, it's interesting because I was thinking about people-pleasing recently, and my own, I feel like an ex-people pleaser. Like, I could be wrong. I don't feel like I'm a people pleaser as much anymore. Like, I don't have as much trouble saying no or saying what I need or, entering into conflict if necessary. Like, I'm such a better friend with my anger than I used to be. Because if you're a people pleaser, you may not have anger. Like, anger, people pleasing doesn't tolerate anger, right? So we have to suppress it. We have to put it to the side, which is what society wants us to do. Right? And so, I think one of the things that really helped me kind of rehabilitate from that people pleasing was when I realized that the people pleasing was not for the people being pleased. It was for me. It was for me to feel safe.
Right.
It was for me to feel wanted, needed, and to avoid conflict, which is the place where I would have an opportunity to express my authenticity in terms of needs, desires, values. Right? So if I'm never angry and I'm never in conflict and I'm never making someone upset and I'm never saying, what I really want and so on, I get away with something. It doesn't benefit them, right? Like, sure, it's easy for them and whatever, but I don't think people notice necessarily all the time a people pleaser's efforts. It's more so that you get to be invisible in a certain way, right? And then you feel that you have the right to be resentful when your needs are not getting met because you never say them. Nobody knows what they are, right? And so I think that's kind of what was happening with Kevin, is like, maybe he really didn't know what he wanted or what his needs were or whatever it is. But the idea of causing conflict, like he just couldn't even say to Tyler, like, I have these feelings for someone else. Like he was, and you see this a lot, people having this narrative with one person and they're saying essentially the same thing to the other person. And it's sometimes because they genuinely, their feelings shift when they're with that person and they're like, but I do like you the most. And then the next person, they're like, oh no, it's you that I like the most, like in this moment. But no one is able, or not no one, but it's harder for people to be able to sit down and say, I do enjoy my time with you, but my actual values are not simply getting married. They are, you know, X, Y, and Z. This is the kind of lifestyle I want. This is the kind of person that I need, and so on. A lot of people don't have that self-awareness, and then they're not able to communicate it. So, you know, I think that was a lot of the problem that happened there. Okay, so a couple things that are interesting about Kia. One thing that's interesting is that she said later in an interview that she was asking every single guy, who did you vote for in the pots?
I saw that. Yes. Yeah.
And if they said Trump, she was like, cool, thank you for letting me know. I will not be seeing you again. They didn't show any of that.
That's right.
Right? Instead, they showed that moment with Alex and Ashley where he was like, oh, I'm a conservative. I would have voted for Trump. And everyone, like, there might have been more conversation there. It seemed like the brother was a little bit like, oh, I don't know about that. But it was just sort of pasted over completely. There was a recent season where something very interesting changed, I think. Like in the first few seasons, politics was never discussed. And then all of a sudden there was this season where a lot of the women were wanting to know, what do you think about abortion? What do you think if you have queer children? You know, what is your stance on this, that, and the other? Like these women really wanting to know, are you a girl's guy? I don't know how you'd phrase it in the Love is Blind world, but you know, are you someone that sees women as humans? This may be a way of putting that. And a lot of these men struggling with that. Like there was one interesting couple where she was very, very clear about that. Her sister was gay and she was like, I need to know that would be okay with you and your family. Like that's not something I'm willing to like make my sister uncomfortable. And he was really Christian. He was just not sure. And he thought probably, but it was not that clear. And it was interesting at the end. I think almost everybody said no at the end of that season because it was these women, rather than doing the kind of like pick me thing, marriage is the most important thing. They actually were able to come around and say, I don't want a man who does that. Like I really, these values are really important to me. And it is interesting to kind of think about, I actually would have to look back to think about the timing, but the way that we're seeing this as like the MAGA season, and maybe the whole cult is MAGA, but at the time, maybe that was like the Kamala Harris moment where it felt like things were turning back around to the liberal side of things.
Right.
Like, you know, Taylor Swift's feminist cat lady era. And then we're switching to, you know, the MAGA era where Taylor Swift is marrying a football player and wanting a bunch of kids. And like, it's like the winds have shifted in this direction where who holds the power is more so now that conservative aspect of things. And so now they're moving the show in this different direction. And, you know, it was interesting to see almost some conflicts about that in this season because Kia, in that moment of I choose myself, you know, and I feel like I could be mixing her up with somebody else on a different season, but I feel like she did talk about like, it was interesting to experiment with like the can I fix him thing. And then I remembered that I don't do that.
Yeah.
And I'm glad I didn't, right? But I came across this article not too long ago called Is Having a Boyfriend Embarrassing Now? And this article is like about all of these women who kind of hide their male partners on social media because they don't want people to know this embarrassing thing that they have like a boyfriend.
That's so funny. Funny.
So we're in this interesting moment where there is such a divide, right? On the one hand, there is this conservative thing where, you know, family values, marriage, all of that stuff. And then there is the other side of it, I guess, where people are really resisting what's happening culturally in terms of that and saying, I have the right to be single. I do not want to marry someone who makes my life worse. I don't want to have children. I believe in abortion, you know, all of these things. And I feel like there's this underlying tension that we can see, I guess, with all these different couples.
Yeah. How did you feel about all of Like, I felt like the entire relationship between Mike and Emma was Mike bullying her into deciding to have children when she, from the outset, was like, this isn't something that I want. And when they finally get to the altar, she's like, he includes like, are you going to have children in his wedding vows? And she's like, I do. And he's like, I don't believe you. And then they don't get married. Like, I was so, even that the episode where they have her family come to meet him and her family is grilling him on this. And they're like, this has always been so important to her. She's always been so solid about not wanting to have kids. And her sister, who has kids, is like, and I'm someone who I love my kids. I wouldn't wish having kids on anyone. And like, I was so fascinated by the trajectory of this. The only person that they showed us who was like, yeah, that's cool, you don't have to have kids, was Stephen, who they ended up getting rid of because either he was an alcoholic or an abuser or something. Like, he was so sketchy. I was like, I like the idea of him until he talks to her, and then he starts talking to her, and then he's evil. Right. So, like, what the fuck is happening, Julie? Please explain to me how to digest this.
Yeah, that was really interesting. So the question of whether to have kids or not is something that comes up in therapy all the time. Like, many people question this.
Good. Honestly, good. I want more people to question it and not just do it.
Oh, 100%. And, you know, after I had kids, I felt even more strongly that people should be able to choose whether or not they want to do this. Like,
I felt
you know, in my case, doing it later in life when I had like some stability and security and some finances behind us and all that stuff, I find it very hard. And I love it also. It's both for sure.
Course, yeah.
You know, wouldn't trade it. But I think it was very funny to see her sister being like, don't do it. Don't do it. Like, I'm in the trenches right now. Like, don't do it. Because it's a completely different, like, life path, right?
Yes.
And it's not, like, those life paths, having kids or not having kids, one is not better than the other. They are different. Yeah. They are very different. And if you're doing one, you are not doing the other, right?
That's right.
And so, you know, if you happen to feel clear about that, that's lucky in a way. And I also feel like it's a question that women specifically tend to be faced with almost no matter what. It's like, it might have been our mutual friend Caitlin who said this to me actually, but it was something like you don't get out of your reproductive years without having to deal with this in some way or another. Whether you want kids, don't want kids, or aren't sure, people are asking you. If you have one kid, they want to know if you're having another kid, you know, if you're having fertility issues. And if you're super sure you don't want them, people are asking you all the time why. You get this idea that you're selfish. Like, you know, there's so much judgment. And I think men don't have to deal with that in the same way. I have some wonderful men who are clients of mine who think very mindfully and thoughtfully about this. So, you know, I will say there are men out there that are really wanting to bring that mindfulness and that intention to this question too. Culturally, I think the pressure is on women in a heterosexual context much more so than it is on men. Totally. I have one client who I won't name, but is wonderful and very funny. And we were talking about this idea of having kids. And she said, I feel like for men, it's like, yeah, sure, I'll take a baby. You know, and like for women, you know, there's so much that goes into it, like physically, emotionally, your body changes, it's painful. And like, then there are those social pressures, right? Like once you have the baby, there are biological things as well, but like there's so much more that goes into it for a woman. Whereas a man is just like, they have this idea of like, I would like to be someone who has children, but they don't see their life changing at all. They just, there's just a baby there now. And like, it doesn't occur to them that someone's going to have to be taking care of that baby. Childcare costs a lot of money. Who's going to, you know, stay home when the kids are sick? Like these are questions that, you know, people need to be asking. But I just thought that was such an interesting perspective of like, well, you know, you feel like you could take a baby, but for me, it's a whole other thing, right? And so I think for Mike, it felt like I'll take a baby, and also everyone in my family has babies, and I'm expected to have babies, and that's the only way I can see my life going, and I don't talk about literally anything else.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, I don't think we ever see him. I'm sure there's edits here, but I feel like every single conversation was him saying, I want kids. Like, that is my life and my identity.
Yeah.
And I mean, who knows? Maybe he had thought about it, more. But for her, like, why would you choose each other? Like, why? That's such a huge thing. Like, even her being on the fence, that's not something that should have been a non-negotiable for him. Right. And it should be for her, too. Like, if she wants that space to choose, it shouldn't be somebody who's so pressuring her.
I really wonder if for her, it was that, like, I want to win at the show. You know what I mean? Because she had also been rejected by her 1 and her 2, right? Connor and Chris, I think, were the 2 people that she was also...
I was getting them confused early on, and I was just like, I forget who was in a relationship with who, but she definitely had other people, and
it was 3.
Okay.
And Mike was definitely the last one, because I remember being so... I'm going to say this out loud, and I already regret saying it out loud, but I was so disappointed in her when he was like, well, you're my number 1. And she was like, you're my number 1 too. It's like, no. You are lying. You're lying to him. That's fine. You're allowed to lie to men, but you're also lying to yourself.
Yeah.
Because now you're going to go through this with this person who wants this thing from you that you don't want, and you're going to try to fix him. And this is not fixable. It was really, I guess I just keep coming back to this, like, reality TV is always a little bit of a competition.
Yeah.
And in order to win, you have to get engaged. And I think she just, and you know what? Who wouldn't want to go to Mexico with all your girls that you've just been, like, drinking and partying with for a month? So I don't really, like, I think it's unfair of me to say I was disappointed in her, but I, like, on behalf of women everywhere who don't want to have kids, I was really disappointed in her in that decision. Yeah.
Yeah. I am not sure that I felt like she needed to win. I was thinking a little bit more about Emma from the perspective of her traumas, I guess. Like, the fact of being adopted is already traumatic for a baby nervous system who knows the, sound of her gestating person's voice and heartbeat and things like that, to be now in someone else's. Actually, she said she was adopted at age 3.
Yeah.
Which, if you think about that, like, from what I know now of, like, child development and so on, like, if she was in an orphanage for the first 3 years of her life, like, that is developmentally major, right? And she seemed incredibly well adjusted and, like, lovely. I really liked Emma. But that is a big thing. And then on top of that, she's an Asian woman being raised by a white family. And that is something that is not necessarily a trauma, but I feel like there was an era where white people were innocently adopting babies of different races, thinking they were doing this wonderful thing, but never having that second thought of, like, what's it going to be like for this child to be raised where even their own family doesn't look like them, especially if they're in a white area or whatever it is. Like, they have no connection to their culture. That white family doesn't know anything about their culture. Like, that is a whole issue too. And then on top of that, she has these precancerous birthmarks, major health issues, tons of surgeries, and the scarring that she felt a lot of insecurity about, right? And she had come so far, like, with all of that behind her, like, she was doing great.
Yeah.
And I feel like there was probably some very deep wounds in there about wanting to be chosen, right? Wanting to be loved, wanting to be wanted. What a weird yes she gave at the altar, right? It was this weird moment of, like, I don't think I can live without you. So I don't see a world where it's not like we're doing this, which was a yes. It's just like, you're not saying yes.
Yeah.
But she's saying, you know, like, I think she's wanting to be, you know, committed to and so on. So I feel like it was probably more complex than some of the others, kind of, you know, desire to be chosen or picked or whatever it is like that. I feel like that wound is probably way deeper. And Emma maybe just needs some more time, right? To like, I mean, she's quite young as well, you know, to be able to kind of grow into that, like, I have the right to not want children. Like, it is okay for me to not want children. And, like, it is okay for me to be chosen by someone who doesn't want that. And then we had Jess on the other side, who I loved Jess. She was so clear about who she was. And one of those things was, like, I'm not going to be having kids. And it was interesting to watch that flip, because in the pods, and even when they first met each other, she and Chris were so on the same page and having a great time. And I wrote down a note that was like, these two shorties just loving each other being short. Like, they were just like, I'm thrilled that you're short. Like, we're short together. This is so great. I thought that was going to, like, go in a really cute direction. It went very dark. But, you know, Jess had really, she was like, I'm clear about who I am. I'm clear about what I want. I'm not interested in being challenged in those ways. And that's not where Emma was, right? Like, she was just much more so in a place of, oh, like, is the thing I need to change having kids in order to be loved? Then I can change that. I can change it. It's that same people pleasing thing, right? Like, you know, she's trying to be loved. She's trying to belong. She's trying to feel safe. And so she will change something about herself that's within her control, because there's so much in her life that's not in her control. My God, right? I mean, obviously I don't know, but those are just some of the thoughts I had about what was going on between the two of them. So tell me what you thought about Brittany and Devante.
So the fact that Brittany showed up with a wedding dress already purchased was like a huge red flag for me. She's not the only woman I have ever encountered in my life who purchases wedding dresses before even being in a relationship. Like, I've known other girls and
this
women
is
who
toxic vision boarding.
Totally, absolutely. Because, like,
toxic manifestation.
To be clear, like, a wedding dress is not a small investment. Like, a wedding dress isn't like a $200 fancy dress that you hope to be able to wear to a fancy party at some point. It's like, sometimes in the often, I would say, not even sometimes, it is often in the thousands of dollars.
Definitely multiple thousands, yeah.
Yeah. And so this...
Mine was a ordered online ASIS maternity dress because I was pregnant at my wedding. And I loved it. It was great. It was maybe $200.
Nice.
By the time I got there, I did not want that thousands of dollar dress, and I wouldn't have fit into it anyway.
Totally. Oh my God. Totally. Yeah. So that was initially like a big red flag for me, but I kind of forgot about her, like, while they were in the pods, because I didn't really find anything about them to be particularly compelling. So they get engaged, they meet each other, and you can tell by the music that something is wrong. And that I was like, I see, production is happening right now. We are being notified that something is wrong. And she, like, privately talks about how she thought he was going to be bigger. She, like, had these expectations about him. He's like, I don't usually date, like, I don't remember how he phrased it, but he was like, I usually date white women. It's like, my guy. Okay. And so then when they go to Mexico, they continue to have this extremely weird dynamic where, like, she's, like, talking, she's obviously uncomfortable about this because of the pitch of her voice, but she's talking about how, like, her poor man, they're not having sex and everybody else is having sex. Like, oh, I feel so bad for him.
God,
like,
I forgot
oh my
about
gosh,
that.
she feels so bad for him. And then presumably at some point they have sex because she stops talking about how they're not having sex. But they even have a fight at one point where she's like, do we need to have sex? Like, is that what this is about? And
oh my God,
like,
I blocked that out.
It's so,
I totally forgot about that. That was so awful.
I know. And it's like, it is actually totally okay to not have sex. Like, I think it's so reasonable to have that as a boundary. But I don't think it's reasonable to, like, then weaponize that boundary and be like, is this what it's going to take? Like, no, you set the boundary. You said that you didn't want to have sex with anybody until it was the person you were going to marry. So, like, it was just very clear that she was not into him. in like so not into him that she didn't even want to have sex with him. And also clearly into Alex. They have that exchange that the show shows us where they're like talking privately about, they're like saying but not saying that they're into each other now that they've finally seen each other. Whatever. Okay, that's, you guys do you. I also want to say that I don't think that Devante was perfect. Like, I don't think that he came across to me as like a pretty basic regular guy, but the dynamic that he had with Brittany seemed very much like she was always angry with him and he was just kind of sitting quietly and taking it. And she seemed to want him to prove something to her that I don't think he even knew what he was supposed to prove. And I've seen a lot of memes. I think you and I sent them back and forth about how like she wanted him to tell her that she was pretty. And he was like, yes, you do want that. I get that you want that, and wouldn't do it. Right. Like, he was not a golden trophy, not worth sacrificing your life for. But at the same time, she also just kept insisting that relationship was what she wanted when it so clearly was not what she wanted. And there were discrepancies between what she was saying to him, what she was saying to the cameras, and what she was saying to the other women on the trip. And it was just like red flag city. Like, the city was painted with red flags. I really wanted Devante to run. So I was so relieved that he eventually was like, no, I can't do this. We're not going to do this. Because she's like very clearly somebody who is in it to get married, and she said multiple times, I want to be married, without any sense of like what it means to be in a healthy relationship. Right. And so I found that so alarming and so uncomfortable. And so it really surprised me that even in like the social media discourse that came across my feeds, like nobody seemed to be like problematizing her, I think, extremely toxic and unhealthy behavior. Like, I think people really went for Devante, and he certainly opens himself up to a lot of criticism because of his inability to communicate. But I really need more people to look at Brittany and be like, that is extremely unhealthy, toxic, bad behavior. I wanted to hear something from the hosts, actually, about that. And even how they went for Chris, I really needed someone to say something to Brittany like, you were not here to find love. You were here to get married.
Right.
That's not healthy.
Yeah, I think that's so interesting. And when we did our predictions back and forth, I did think that was interesting that you wanted Devante to run, because I was in that place at the time where I wanted Brittany to run. Yeah, I forgot that initially she was the one that wasn't attracted to Devante. Yeah. And the wedding dress thing. So let's talk about toxic manifestation or toxic vision boards for a second, because I feel like this is actually conservative culture, right? Totally. Yeah. I think this idea that you get a lot in New Age circles, which many of which I'm in, right? Or was in, especially with yoga and stuff like that, meditation. It's this idea of like, you're so powerful that you can create your future. This is the American dream, right? It's the idea that you can just by willpower make yourself literally a millionaire. Is, a lot of this manifestation culture stuff originated with The Secret, which was that quote unquote documentary about how you could become a millionaire by thinking hard enough about it. Mm-hmm. I think that this is one of those things that allows you to avoid the realities of things like patriarchy, capitalism, white supremacy, etc., and fantasize yourself into the class you want to be in, or whatever it might be. In this case, for Brittany, being married is the class she wanted to be in, right? In the Love is Blind cult, married is the class, the highest class that you can have. And, I have encountered so much of this vision board stuff, and it's not that I don't, like, I love intentions. I think it's really powerful to set an intention, write it down. If images help you, like, sure, if you're moving towards something and want to work towards something, I think that can be really valuable. But I think when it's a way of ignoring the other systemic things that you don't have control over, that can be incredibly dangerous. And I remember learning about this vision board like class in a recovery center that really disturbed me. Because, I think on the one hand, it can be really great to be working with, once you're out of this recovery center, what do you want your life to look like? I think that's very useful. But if people are creating this fantasy of what their life is going to look like, and then they meet the real world and it doesn't meet that fantasy, and they don't have as much control as they were told they have about making that fantasy life come true, that's going to send them back to the recovery house, right?
Totally.
Through relapse or whatever it is.
Yeah.
So I think that the vision board thing, for vulnerable people especially, is incredibly dangerous. And I think it is this, like, it upholds this sort of conservative MAGA, you create your own reality, you can be whatever class you want to be if you just pull up your bootstraps and try hard enough. Like, I think it fits into that, right? So this idea of buying a wedding dress, anyway, it's wild. It's absolutely a red flag. And I think Devonte was right that she kept saying, I want to be married, but she never really said married to you.
Yeah.
Devonte, though, my sort of unhinged moment for Devonte was the nothing box.
Yeah.
He was like,
needed to be in the nothing box.
I just need to be in the nothing box, which is like, you know what? If that's your need, that's your need, right? Like, that's fair. Sometimes we do need to dissociate. That is a thing. But when you're avoiding, communicating with your partner or connecting with your partner or sharing with your partner what's going on with you so that you can be in this like la 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 kind of place, that's not going to be very healthy in that relationship context, right?
Totally.
And so, in my predictions, what I was talking about was that I did not think Devonte was going to say yes because being married would be too disturbing for his nothing box. I thought it would be.
Yeah.
And I will just say, obviously they were not together. When they had that last conversation, this was another moment of failed communication, right? Like, he literally said, we'll be in touch.
Yeah.
And she said, we're still engaged.
Yeah.
Which they were not. And
No.
then there was some drama that happened about him just being unable to, like, communicate that message to her, and her not getting it or not wanting to hear it or whatever it is. Just like with that toxic, the other thing about the toxic manifestation is, there's no room to change your mind, right? Or there's no room to sort of be like, well, I got the wedding or whatever it is, but like, I've now ruined my life. And so what was on the vision board has, backfired.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that moment of finding out that Devonte was engaged with a baby on the way made me feel a bit sick. And according to social media, it sounds like he was also cheating. Like, somehow, I don't know exactly what the time was. It's been about a year since this happened. And he said he's been in this relationship for 7 months. And he was cheating on someone else that he was already with. So, like, not that much time had passed between the time that they were having this conversation and then Brittany finally clocking in that they were not together anymore after, whatever it is. Then he managed to date someone else and then date someone else and then get her pregnant and then now being gay. Like, that's a lot. That's a busy year.
Yeah.
My God.
Yeah. Yeah.
And also, why does he get to get married? His nothing box is not going to survive this.
I don't
If you want to live in a nothing box, don't have children.
Yeah, you can't.
Don't do it. It will threaten your nothing box. Like nothing else.
That relationship is not going to be healthy. I can't speak to whether or not it will last because the fact that he's getting married, clearly, we read this as he's getting married because he knocked up the person that he was seeing. So, like, they got pregnant, they're going to get married. Okay. But, like, he's not ready. He's not going to be a good partner. He's not going to be a good dad.
He's still Alex's roommate, I think.
Yeah. I forgot those two.
I love that moment too where it was like, guess who Alex's roommate is? And people were like, a turtle? Like the Airbnb host? Like, I don't know. It's like, it's Devontae.
You're so right. Alex is he was 100% on that show because he was homeless and needed someone to like take care of him. He was going to continue to be a nomad for sure, but he needed like a place to land.
Right.
Who else?
Jordan and Amber. Jordan and Amber. Okay, so I will say, when they got married, I got goosebumps, actually.
Yeah?
Because I think they had agreed they were going to say no, actually. And then you could see him kind of freaking out, and I was like, oh, he's going to fumble, he's going to fumble, he's going to fumble. And then he said yes, and I was like, oh my gosh, that is so sweet. And I felt this way before. It happened the same way. By the reunion, you're like, what? No! But, you know, it did kind of turn out as I suspected. I mean, there were these red flags, I think. I don't know if red flags is quite the right way to put it, but the way that he didn't want to move to Mount Vernon, where she had bought and renovated the house where she lived with her child, who was settled with school and so on, because he wanted to be closer to the bars. I was like, really? That's your reason?
So bad. Yeah.
And his home was very boy kind of, you know, which, like, I know a lot of boys who have an excellent house that's, like, tasteful and well put together. Like, it doesn't have to be like that, you know?
It really doesn't.
But, yeah, I think he just wasn't ready. And, you know, I hadn't really clocked that Amber might have an anger issue, might have a drinking problem. Like, she definitely had this, like, she said a few times things like, what was her phrase? It was something like, I despise men. Like, I hate men. I'm, like, a card-carrying man-hater. Which is like, why are you here then? You know, like, what are you doing in this context if you hate men? Yeah. And, you know, she had these past experiences that were bad. And, like, when that's the case, it's totally fair to not date, to not want to date. And also maybe to do some work on that. Like, you know, trust is a big thing that comes up in therapy all the time. And, you know, what we work on is not so much being able to, like, sniff out who's trustworthy and not, because I think actually you can't. But I think what you can work on is, okay, trust myself to what? What do I expect of myself? Is it asking certain questions? Is it, you know, if I have a gut feeling or a yellow flag that's like, something doesn't feel quite right here. How am I following up on that? Is it me and my communication skills? Am I going to be working on these things? Like, we can't control somebody else's behavior. But I think that, you know, so much of the problems we get into with love in modern times is this idea that, like, you fall in love with, like, quote unquote, the one, and then you're done and you don't have any other, like, actions you have to take. But there's so much work that goes into communication and so on. He felt it was a toxic relationship, but I was just so disappointed that, like, you know, he only gave it 4 months or so, and you could see how upset she was. So, you know, I don't know, obviously, the background between those two and what really happened between them. But I was certainly feeling for Amber and just not surprised, really, but disappointed, I would say.
One of the things that I really noticed about Amber that I think is really, really common, but I think is not good and is a really, really dangerous and unhealthy communication style is this tendency to have an outburst and storm away.
Right.
And, like, I think that's, like, we've talked before about, like, the different ways that women in particular have to, like, learn how to take power in a patriarchal system, right? So it's like, it's not surprising and it's not at all uncommon, but, like, it was the same impulse that she had to, like, snap at Chris and storm away was exactly what we saw her do in the reunion, right? So like, not only did she took the opportunity to be like, I actually hate you, Chris. I still hate you. And, like, because she's, you know, absolutely nothing can happen to her. Like, this is a safe place for her to make these
and in the cult,
make these statements. Yeah.
In the cult, if you say yes, you are still in a higher class. If someone leaves you, like, if you're rejected, like, the person that said no is in the lower class because she at least tried to get married and stay married. So she's still in a higher place. And, like, there's going to be less criticism coming against her because she did her part to prove the experiment right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Whereas Jordan, they were, they weren't too hard on Jordan really, but
No.
but he's in a more vulnerable position from the cult perspective because he left the relationship.
Yeah.
He was the leaver, right?
Yeah. And I can, like, I don't know what their relationship dynamic was like, because Jordan said that he felt like he was being asked to repair trust that he never broke.
Right.
And so I really got the impression that, like, she was also not ready. She was not ready for this relationship. She was not ready for the like compromises that she was going to need to make with somebody who couldn't be devoted to her 100% of the time. And like, one of the things that I really thought with Jordan was that he was totally devoted to her, but then when it came to like being in real life, it turns out he does have these desires to be on his own sometimes, to like live in his own apartment and stuff. So I think that they had some irreconcilable differences that I think is unfortunate, because I do think that under different circumstances, like, they are a couple that I kind of believe in their ability to like get through those things. But
yeah, and I mean, I don't know. I mean, I was thinking in this context a little bit about this male loneliness epidemic thing, right? This shift to women like Jess, who, as painful as it was to watch that conversation, where Chris was saying, really, there's no other way of describing this aside from, I'm not attracted enough to you because you don't have the body of someone who goes to Pilates every day. Mm-hmm. Which was infuriating on so many levels. Totally. And as I mentioned before, one of the worst ways is that that's not blind, right? That's scrutinizing a woman's body. But I did enjoy how the women rallied around Jess, how social media rallied around Jess and against Chris, which I feel like I indulged in some of the Chris hate for a while. And then after seeing him at the reunion, I was like, oh, I forgot he's a human person. Yeah. Like, not okay, not forgivable, like all of those things. Yeah. Like, for me, if he'd said something like that to me, but like, people do make mistakes, like, they're idiots. He is a human person. Yeah. And I also didn't like that people were coming down on his height a lot. Because I feel like there is so much of this kind of like, being mean to men for being short and all this stuff. It's like, that's the worst thing about you. Maybe that was part of what he was insecure about. Like, I don't really know. But I feel like that's a bit of an unfair, like, let's definitely criticize him for what he said and his behavior, but like, he can't help his height, right? Yeah. Totally. Anyway, that's a little bit beside the point. I loved how Jess had absolutely no questions about this. She was just like, so this is over now. And I will not be convinced in any other direction. And she says, I have a great life and I'm only willing to be with somebody who makes it better. Yeah. End of story. Yeah. And I think a lot of women now are doing that. A lot of women are choosing to be, single. And I mean women from the perspective of like the heteronormative pressures of someone who is, raised to be a woman. Not that non-binary people and trans people and so on can't have these feelings as well, but it's like there's a specific there has been such a historical pressure on women, people who are seen as women, perceived as women, to be married to a man, right? Yes. So a lot of women are just stepping outside of that. They don't want to do that. They're much happier with their cats and their like home that they can keep clean or whatever it is. Yeah. And so I think the standard is raising for men in that, like, what are you bringing to this? Because women don't need your income anymore. They don't need, the social capital necessarily, although someone like Brittany still is into that narrative. Totally. So what are you bringing? And I think that's really interesting because on the one hand, yes, absolutely. Like, men, people raised to be men, perceived as men, whatever it is, should be meeting a higher standard and should be bringing something into a relationship, should be thinking about what am I bringing aside from like my abs and my income? Like, women, that's not enough for a relationship, right? Yeah. So yes, on that one hand, but on the other hand, I think, from a love and relationships perspective, there is some work, negotiation. Like, I feel like kind of similar actually to wanting kids or not. Like, wanting to be in a partnership, you have to be wanting to change or grow, in some sort of way, especially a long-term relationship. Like, it's going to challenge you, right? And so I don't think Jess should have done anything differently, but I think Jordan maybe should have, right? Like, and Amber maybe should have. Like, I think 4 months is sort of too short of a time to really ask her to change her whole thing. But like, she did mention, I was willing to go to counseling, all these things. Like, I wish they had tried that, right? Like, I wish that they had been able to be like, okay, what can we learn about ourselves here? Like, how can these conflicts help us to grow together and figure out how to better communicate and so on? So, I think men, turning away, like the whole male loneliness epidemic, incel kind of thing, where it's like men feeling entitled to women's time, energy, emotional labor, and bodies, and women rejecting that. It's like, okay, we need to meet in a different place now. If where we met before was not working, and it is not working, we need to be willing to meet in this different place. Otherwise, we'll be isolated, and maybe that's okay, right? Like, I think that there's a world in which that's just a different way. But if you're not happy about that and you feel lonely, like, do something about it. Don't just sit there breaking up with any woman you have an issue with. Like, try something.
Yeah. Yes.
So what did you think about Ashley's altar reprimand?
When I saw that she was going to go through with going to the altar, I became certain that she was going to take that opportunity to like reject him publicly. Which, like, he definitely is a man who thinks too highly of himself. His mother clearly has allowed him to think too highly of himself. Like, she really questioned Ashley's right to like question his integrity, which I was like, ma'am, you do not know your son.
Right. I saw many things online about people thinking that she was an actor.
Oh,
paid by him. Yeah, like that he's just a grifter and this is his thing. Like,
so
he's just
funny.
a con artist. And that for this show, he was like, I'll hire this person to be my mom and like say that I'm a good person and all of this stuff and cry and everything. And, they didn't look much like each other. And you pointed out that she actually looked a lot like Ashley.
She did, yeah.
Yeah.
The second that she walked in, I was like, oh my God. Trying to like line up my screenshots so that I could like get them making exactly the same face.
Yeah.
It was
Also,
really funny.
Amber's brother and Jordan looked uncannily similar.
I know. That was so weird.
Yeah.
Yeah. I have seen a lot of people like kind of complicating the power of Ashley's reprimand of Alex at the altar because she herself is like not a good person. And I think that I agree. I don't think Ashley is a particularly good person. I think her dad is evil. I think that like they're clearly Trump supporters. Like, I don't want people like that to be happy and do well. But at the same time, I think even if you yourself are what I might call like morally compromised, I think Alex has not had the experience of being called out for his shitty behavior. And I was actually kind of relieved to see it happen, to see somebody say like, you're a liar, like you're not, you change your story all the time, because he really thinks the way that he thinks about and represents himself is so removed from like how I perceived him in all of his interactions with her. So like good for her. It is a show that wants people to go to the altar. So like there's a part of me that wants to be like, why not just do this before you go? But then I have to remember, oh yeah, the show wants you to go to the altar. The
producers are very encouraging of getting to the altar for sure.
Yeah.
One piece of context here that I thought was interesting is in previous seasons, okay, so as I've mentioned, there is this kind of cult hierarchy that I feel like is sort of making itself known. Yeah. And you can do really well as a rejected woman who said yes at the altar, okay? There is sort of a special place in the Love is Blind cult for that rejected woman, especially if she was rejected for what she looks like. Previous contestants of this show have gotten podcasts and book deals from being that rejected woman. Oh, interesting. So, another layer to the kind of, rather than being the pick me girl, being the I pick myself girl, there's actually some money to be made on being that. So when I saw how rehearsed that speech was, how ready she was to say it, and how, while I think it was clear that Ashley was like, ugh, like, this guy sucks, she was continuing to move forward. Like, in this way where I actually wondered did she manipulate him to get to the altar so that she could have this moment and hopefully be this, golden child, Love is Blind person that could later have a book deal and things like that. Because it was sort of this moment of like, it's almost like people figuring out what role they play in the cult hierarchy and then trying their best to solidify that. And so she and Amber would become golden children. Amber, less successful because too emotional, right? Yeah. Too explosive. Like maybe it was her fault a little bit that the relationship ended, again, from the cult perspective, not me saying that. And then someone like Chris sitting there at the reunion looking like he was either going to cry or pull a gun out. I wasn't sure which. So clearly finding himself at the absolute bottom of the hierarchy, like the hated, rejected, scapegoated, because not that he is good, like he did something very, very wrong. But this means that he's sitting in this place where, these kinds of hierarchies and structures need exiles. They need rejected ones. They need people who can show you who not to be. Right? Yeah. So he found himself very much in that role, and like you could kind of see in his face there was nothing he could do about it. Alex would theoretically be in the same place, but he was refusing to land there, right? Yeah. And so when the hosts were like, "Hey Alex, what do you think about the timelines?" He was like, "What timelines? Did you look up the timelines? Like, do you have the evidence?" You're just like, whoa. So yeah, I feel like people they're sorted, and some of them know it, and some of them try, and some of them fail, and some of them maybe aren't aware of it. But like, there's definitely sorting happening in the hierarchical classes of the culture, because this was also a space where I don't think ever in any previous season had they had the whole Love is Blind like community in one room.
Totally. Right? Yeah.
So there was the marrieds area. Yeah. Certain exes were seated beside each other. And they had previous, they're both rejected women, actually. The two women who had the microphones, they were both women who said yes and they were rejected. And then that's like that becomes an elevated role, right? So AD, who was one of them, she went on to marry someone from another Netflix reality show. So she's like great. And she has her own podcast about Love is Blind. Okay. Called What's the Reality, I think. And so she's got the podcast, she's got the sort of book deal, and she's now one of the marrieds, right? Because she's in that role. Gigi also married someone and she's had a baby. So like having a baby in the Love is Blind cult huge. Is like,
it seems,
bring us the babies. Like we want the love is. And so Vanessa was criticized in previous seasons for, asking people like, are you going to have a baby? When is the baby coming? Like, we want to know about the babies. She got a lot of criticism about that, but it's another way that like, she didn't mention it as much because I'm sure she heard that criticism, but like from that perspective, this cult wants babies.
Yeah. Oh my goodness.
Yeah. And I will say Nick and Vanessa are like incredibly chaotic as hosts to me. And this whole reunion thing, like at one moment it was supposed to be group therapy where he was saying to Jordan, like, well, no, you have to tell us everything. Like everyone here knows what you're going through. And like, this is the place because it's cathartic, like using this kind of therapy language. And then in the next, moment being like, So, Chris, what are those insecurities that you have about yourself that made you fail so badly on this show? Or just like, going around and going to this like absolute, it felt like as close to a public execution as you can get, right?
Yeah.
And those things should not, like, these people are clearly not qualified to do any sort of group facilitation or anything. Like, they're just awful hosts. But that combo of group therapy and public humiliation is like not okay.
Yeah, I totally agree. Like, I didn't feel bad for Chris exactly, but it definitely, like, looking at him, I really got the impression, like, he's certainly not trying to recover any dignity. He's not trying to save himself. He's really like just getting through it.
Yeah.
And so, like, whether that it's like a contractual obligation, I assume, so like that's the only reason why he's there, but like there was nothing to be gained from doing anything, and he like apologized to Jess. That was fine. He apologized to Connor, which I thought was hilarious. It's like, I'm really, really sorry that I talked that way about you and tried to fuck your girlfriend. Like, okay. But like, yeah, you're right. His role was really just to be publicly humiliated, for sure. And Alex, clearly also like a bit of a joke, for sure. But not like, clearly not aware that he couldn't recover. You know what I mean? The more time we spent with him, the more I was like, I don't know. This man cannot be trusted. Like,
no,
he's probably on the run from the police in New Zealand or something, like
he, okay, we are absolutely out of time. Is there anything that we haven't talked about or anything like that we should really go over before we close?
I mean, I think the only kind of lingering thing, I guess I'm curious, because you're really helping me to understand like how the hierarchy works and how decisions are like, they're not made without context. And so I'm so interested, like Bree and Connor seem to me like the healthiest couple there. Maybe Vic and Christine, they're obviously like you said, they could have been actors. They could have been plants. They were so perfect.
Yeah.
But Bree and Connor seemed so normal. Like, he seemed to really have this affection for her, even for things that he like disliked about her. Like when he talked about how like she never shut the fuck up, but he was like kind of into that. And so the fact that they didn't get married, but were still together and still like that, as a viewer, I was so relieved, because I was like, yes, this is the right decision. You meet somebody, you're like, we have a great thing here. Let's continue to explore and figure this out. And then we can maybe talk about getting married later if that works, if that's like going to work for us. But that's not what the show wants, right?
That's not what the show wants. Exactly. They failed the experiment, right?
Yeah.
And they say many times, where love is blind, where you'll meet at the altar and choose to be together forever or never see each other again. Like, they say something like that, where it's like, it has to be this either or thing. And so Connor and Bree are breaking the rules.
Totally.
And it's interesting because I think in social media and so on, like, Connor has been getting the positive stuff here, and Bree has been the one getting all of this criticism. And she, again, was the rejector, right? Like, I think he gets off partly because he would have been willing to get married to her, and he kind of went along and sure.
He cried when he had that like exit interview with the producers or whatever.
Right. Yeah. So showing some vulnerability, he's playing along with the experiment, but because she didn't reject Connor, but she did reject the experiment. And so she is the one who's going to get the heat in this couple, I think.
Yeah, for sure.
So, it's interesting because they're certainly not welcome to the married's table. They are not married. They did not do the thing Love is Blind wants for them, which, again, this show is holding marriage as a value, like you talked about at the beginning. And so, if they get married later, they might get a better place in the hierarchy, but we'll see.
Yeah, I saw a number of social media posts about Bree breaking up with Connor, and I had this real like, did I misunderstand? Did I misunderstand that conversation that they had? Because people really seem to have interpreted that as her like rejecting him, which
Right.
was very different from what, like, I saw it as, we can't get married. It's too soon.
Well, I thought it was a very genuine moment of her when she said, I am feeling nervous and scared and I'm not sure why. And I think I need to look at why. Like, that was a really useful moment, I think, of like, that happens a lot of times with avoidant attachment is an example, something I relate to, where it's like, oh, you know, you're loving of me. You think I'm great. You can't see my flaws. What is wrong with you? Like, there must be something wrong with you. I don't feel comfortable with that. You know, and then, you know, having to sort of slowly come around to be like, could it be safe to let someone love me? Like, could it be genuine that this person loves me? And like really needing some time with that. And I appreciate that Brie was like having that moment of maybe it's not this instinct of like, well, you're stupid and not good enough for me, so I choose myself, you know, but rather like I'm gonna actually look at what's happening for me in this relationship dynamic, and I'm not 100% sure what I mean by this, but I know I'm not ready to get married. And so, yeah, I read it as they broke up, I guess, or like weren't gonna go ahead, but then, yeah, by the reunion they had, you know, continued on and so on. Which a lot of couples do, right? A lot of them continue to date, and many of them fail. Like they don't say yes at the altar and then they continue to date and then it fails. Like that's usually what happens. It's relatively unusual for that to happen and them still be together at the reunion. And you know, Chris had such a criticism against Connor for being passive, but unlike Kevin's passivity, which says, I don't know what I want, Connor's passivity, I wouldn't call it passivity. It was actually quite strong. It was more like, I actually do really want to be with you, and I'm not going to falter on that. And if you need time or whatever it is, like my boundaries can hold that easily and safely. That's a very different version of what Chris was calling passivity, I think.
Totally. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. Okay. So like there was a lot to talk about with this. I know. But and this is why I find this show so fascinating. So
have fun editing your 2-hour podcast episode.
That's right. Yeah. Do you feel like you would ever watch this show again?
I don't know. I might. I can't say for sure. I don't know.
See if it pulls you in next time.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. What about you? Are you committed?
Oh yeah, I'll watch. Yeah. I'll keep watching. Yeah. I'll keep watching. I won't be able to prevent myself. It's too interesting. But I prefer to be able to have a podcast about it because then I can process all the feelings that come up about it, some of which are very uncomfortable feelings. Because so often these things remind me of things that have happened in my life, right? So anyway, thank you so much, Marcelle, for taking the time to be with me and watch this wild, strange show and subject yourself to it. So I really appreciate you being here.
Oh, you're so welcome. Thank you for inviting me. It was quite an experience.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you so much, Marcelle. See you soon.
Yeah, my absolute pleasure. See you later.
Bye.
Bye.